welcome to another episode of Mindful Musings, the podcast where we unpack the quirks and complexities of the human experience. I'm your host, and today we're exploring a piece that takes a humorous twist on a topic we all grapple with: mastering our emotions. Have you ever felt like your emotions are unruly guests at a party you didn't even know you were hosting? Well, the Unspoken Truth tackles this very idea, suggesting that mastering emotions is akin to the Herculean task of pretending to be a functioning adult. It's a satirical guide that doesn't just poke fun at our emotional chaos, but also shines a light on the universal struggle of keeping ourselves together. The author paints emotions as unwelcome party guests who not only overstay their welcome but also wreak havoc in the process. Imagine throwing a small get-together and suddenly a band of misfits barges in, turning your cozy evening into a scene from a wild comedy film. That's what dealing with emotions can feel like: chaotic, overwhelming, and utterly unpredictable. Let's journey through the so-called 5 helpful steps the guide offers, each one dripping with sarcasm and wit. First up, we have what I like to call the carb crusade. The guide humorously suggests that devouring an entire pizza is the key because, in their words, carbs equal happiness. It's a tongue-in-cheek nod to emotional eating, a habit many of us are guilty of when stress and anxiety rear their ugly heads. This step highlights how we often seek comfort in food, using it as a temporary bandage for deeper issues. As the famous chef Julia Child once said, "People who love to eat are always the best people." While there's joy in good food, relying on it to manage emotions is a recipe for a never-ending cycle of fleeting satisfaction. Next, we escape into the cuddly world of feline therapy. The guide recommends immersing ourselves in endless cat videos to avoid human interaction. It's a playful jab at how we sometimes prefer the uncomplicated company of animals, or in this case, cute internet cats, over the complexities of human relationships. This step underscores our tendency to seek easy distractions instead of facing our feelings head-on. As psychologist Carl Jung noted, fictions are useful so long as you know they are fictions. Those cat videos? They're delightful fictions that offer brief respite but don't address the root of our emotional turbulence. The third step is assertiveness training, where we're encouraged to write a strongly worded letter to our emotions. Where, the catch, our emotions won't listen. This sarcastic advice mirrors the frustration we feel when trying to reason with ourselves. It's like arguing with the wind. No matter how passionately we present our case, the elements remain unchanged. This notion brings to mind the classic Shakespearean line from Hamlet, "Words without thoughts never to heaven go." Venting on paper might feel cathartic, but without true introspection, it doesn't lead to meaningful progress. Moving on, we have deep breathing, but not just any deep breathing. It's the ancient art of extreme deep breathing. The guide cynically advises us to breathe really, really deeply and hope for the best. Here, the author is poking fun at the oversimplification of mindfulness practices. While deep breathing is a legitimate technique for reducing stress, pretending it alone can solve complex emotional issues is, well, a breath of fresh cynicism. This reminds me of a quote by meditation teacher John Kabat-Zinn: "You can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf." True mindfulness requires practice and acceptance, not just exaggerated inhales and exhales. Finally, the fifth step takes us to the cosmos with astrological excuses. Blaming everything on Mercury retrograde becomes the go-to rationale. Why take accountability when you can point to the stars? So, it's a satirical take on how we sometimes externalize our problems, attributing them to forces beyond our control. While astrology can be a fun lens through which to view the world, using it to dodge personal responsibility is another matter. As author Karen Marie Moning wrote, "The stars incline us, they do not bind us." In other words, while cosmic events might influence us, they don't dictate our actions. Throughout these steps, the guide playfully admits its own futility. There's an underlying acknowledgement that there's no magic bullet for managing emotions. Emotions are compared to that one relative who just won't leave, annoying, unpredictable, and occasionally violent. We all have, or have heard of, that family member who turns up uninvited, overstays their welcome, and leaves us yearning for solitude. This metaphor captures the essence of how invasive and stubborn our emotions can be. The beauty of this piece lies in its ability to make us laugh while simultaneously holding up a mirror to our own coping mechanisms. It's a lighthearted yet relatable take on the ongoing struggle with our inner turmoil. By wrapping serious themes in humor, the guide makes the topic accessible, reminding us that it's okay to not have all the answers. After all, we're all just pretending to be experts on things we often barely understand. This approach is reminiscent of the comedic style used by writers like Douglas Adams, author of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Adams had a knack for exploring profound philosophical questions through absurdity and satire. Similarly, The Unspoken Truth uses sarcasm to acknowledge the complexities of the human psyche without getting bogged down in self-help cliches. It's important to recognize that while the guide is satirical, it touches on genuine feelings of helplessness we sometimes experience when grappling with our emotions. The suggestion that there's no one-size-fits-all solution resonates with the reality that emotional mastery is a personal and ongoing journey. Psychologist Daniel Goleman, known for popularizing the concept of emotional intelligence, emphasizes that emotions can get in the way or get you on the way. Understanding and managing them is key to personal growth. In a world saturated with advice columns, self-help books, and motivational speakers, The Unspoken Truth offers a refreshing perspective. It doesn't claim to have the answers. Instead, it unites us in the shared experience of not having it all figured out. There's comfort in that camaraderie, in knowing that others are also navigating the unpredictable waters of their own emotional seas. This piece also subtly critiques the quick fixes that society often promotes. From fad diets to viral wellness trends, we're constantly bombarded with oversimplified solutions to complex problems. By exaggerating these fixes, like extreme deep breathing or binge-watching cat videos, the guide highlights their inefficacy and encourages us to look beyond them. Moreover, the guide touches on the avoidance of accountability, a common theme in human behavior. Blaming Mercury retrograde or other external factors is an easy way out, but it doesn't foster growth or understanding. Taking responsibility for our emotions and actions is daunting, but ultimately more rewarding. As Eleanor Roosevelt once said, "In the long run, we shape our lives, and we shape ourselves." In incorporating humor, the guide also underscores the therapeutic power of laughter. Studies have shown that humor can be an effective coping mechanism. It can reduce stress, improve mood, and even strengthen our immune system. By finding the funny side of our emotional struggles, we can gain a new perspective and perhaps approach them with a bit more grace. So, what can we take away from The Unspoken Truth? Firstly, it's a reminder that emotions are messy, and that's perfectly normal. We're all juggling our own set of unwelcome party guests, and sometimes the best we can do is acknowledge their presence. Secondly, it encourages us to question the quick fixes and instead seek more meaningful approaches to understanding ourselves. Perhaps most importantly, it emphasizes that we're not alone in this endeavor. The shared human experience is rife with imperfections, and there's a certain solace in that. We're all, in one way or another, just pretending to be functioning adults. And maybe that's okay. Life doesn't come with a manual, and we're all writing our own guides as we go along. As we wrap up today's episode, consider this. Embracing the chaos of our emotions might just be the first step toward mastering them. Instead of fighting the unwelcome guests, perhaps we can learn to coexist with them, even if they're a bit unruly. Thank you for joining me on this humorous exploration of emotional mastery. If you enjoyed today's discussion, don't forget to subscribe and share it with someone who could use a laugh about their own emotional roller coaster. Until next time, keep riding the waves, and remember, it's okay not to have it all figured out.